Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. This is the software meeting. So the blue sheet is distributed, and the note taker. Anyone volunteered for the note taker? Oh, okay.
Basil, can you be JavaScript? You want to do both? Okay.
So this is the noteware for IETF meeting. And welcome our new AD, Terry Madison. So Terry, would you like to say something?
Hello, and I really dislike you taking that picture off the IETF site and putting it up there. Thank you.
So for this, our agenda, we will have several discussions on young model radius extension and multicast support. And after that, we will discuss the future direction of software. So for our working group document, we submitted quite a few of our documents to ISG, and these 5 documents have been put into the RFC edit queue and in author 48 status. So this Latitude 406 and 4RD got approval for the authors, and we also need the author approval for map DCP and map T. Currently, we have around 8 working group documents. So 3 MIPs will be advanced to ISG next week. We also have multicast document and others on map radius and map deployment. So we will show our milestone later. So next one is software young model. Ying.
Hello. So I'm Ian Farrer from Deutsche Telekom, and this is an update on the SOFTWIRE Yang model that we've been working on for a year or so now. Okay, so hopefully everyone is in the room should have a fairly good idea of what a SOFTWIRE is. The idea was, and as the main SOFTWIRE drafts were going through the approval phase and the IESG review, one of the comments that was raised by the ops area was that there was no mechanism for managing these. So this was one of the drivers for producing a Yang model to deal with that question. We've elected, or from discussion with the work group, we've tried to make a comprehensive Yang model which is going to cover all of the standards track SOFTWIRE drafts, so all of the ones that are currently just waiting for publication. So that's Lightweight 4/6, MAP-E, and MAP-T. Yeah, I won't dwell too much on the architecture. Hopefully everyone's fairly familiar with that stuff. Next slide, please. So structurally, the model has, well, 3 submodels that sit inside there. We put it together with using the Lightweight 4/6 one, dividing that into the CPE portion, the B4 portion, and the AFTR as the software tunnel concentrator. It just made sense because there wasn't enough commonality between the two of them. With MAP-E and MAP-T, because there's a common set of rules and a common format for those rules that are used for both the CPE and for the concentrator, we could use a single model and reuse that in both cases. So, but we took the approach of taking MAP-E and MAP-T and separating those out as well. It is possible that we could get greater reuse of the way the mechanism is or the way that the model is by combining those further, but for clarity I think it works better this way as it stands at the moment. Next slide, please. So this was last presented at 91. That was where the request came to extend this and make it include all of the standards tracks ones. So MAP-T has been added since then. The division of Lightweight 4/6 into B4 and AFTR is new. Some example configuration stuff has gone into there. We've extended it with a notification model as well. From discussion in IETF 91, the decision was not to include a NAT configuration model in there, which I think is still the right answer, although, you know, if one does appear from somewhere, I'm not aware of anyone working on one, but if one does appear from somewhere, then it would be good to have that so that we could at least reference it. We've also added some traffic stat counters in there as well, and security considerations. Next slide, please. The document's also been through a Yang doctor's review. 23 comments back in total. They're all included at the end of here if anyone's interested in pouring through them. I won't bore you with the minutiae of them, but most of them are around consistency, grammar, and so forth. There was a few more substantive ones. Given the way that this sort of divides out into 3 natural models in there, is this one model or is it 3? We still got it as one model as it stands at the moment. It could be divided out. I don't really have a strong opinion in either direction. If anyone else does, then you know, please let it be known.
I just had a comment, right? So we don't know if this is going to stay in the same structure if it gets adopted by the working group, right? So another way of looking at it, like you said, right, that you considered, is like combining the common stuff together from all the 3 mechanisms, right? So the way like we did the DHC options, right? There's like theoretically a possibility of doing the same way with these things too, right? So I think it's a bit premature to decide on that. That's what I was trying to say. Like to
I see what you mean, but I mean, if you have you been through this in more detail? You've looked at the draft.
Yeah.
And I mean, have you got specific suggestions about how that could be combined? And
no, the thing is like we done some kind of how do I call it, rationalization of the provisioning solutions, right? So there's nothing stopping people from saying like we can rationalize this further as well, right? I'm not certain it's going to be better, but it's going to be different and just as right.
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
like,
it's a fair comment. I mean,
so that's I don't know yet, right? Because we haven't tested the consensus of the working group on that, right? Like,
Yeah,
so once,
okay.
so put off this discussion on like 1 or 3 until that point.
Okay. Comment number 12 was around adding tunnel OEM, BFD being the specific suggested way of doing this. So it was a suggestion that we should consider it. We did consider this, and the consensus that we came back with was that it wasn't a particularly good idea. I mean, with the software implementations, we've really shied away from keeping per tunnel state and any kind of additional signaling around there. And tunnel OEM, BFD would add that to the that overhead, which I don't think is a particularly desirable thing. There was a draft I seem to remember Tina Sue had around BFD signaling for soft wires. I forget what happened with that exactly. I would, if that's necessary and if that was to progress, then I would suggest that the Yang model gets augmented to be able to support that. Comment 20, FMR BMR rule definition. Originally we had this set up as an enumeration type for FMR or BMR. I don't think the comment was, well, the comment set us thinking about this, and I think we've described that incorrectly. It should be a BMR Boolean on there, which describes whether the rule is suitable for use as a BMR, rather than hard coding kind of this is what the rule is, because obviously BMR is something which will be identified by the host as part of the configuration. So in the next update, we'll make that change. Yeah, and as I mentioned, the complete set's at the end of the this presentation if you really want to go through it. Right, so this is a quick overview of the new stuff around the Notify, the NetConf Notify model, which would allow you to have a sort of publish and subscribe way of making changes towards the, particularly towards the software concentrator, for example. So that is new in there. Next slide, please. And this is just a breakout of an example configuration rendered as XML from libnetconf. And I think that's just about the end. Next slide, please. Okay, so yeah, this is the third review of the document. We've been through the Yang doctoring process, and this is I think the second time that we've presented it. So I feel at this stage that we're getting something which is at least reasonably mature and stable, and so I think it's, well, I'd like to ask if we can adopt it as a work group item now.
Okay, so how many people in the room have read this draft? Yeah, sure. Okay, so not enough hands for me to do a call in the room, but I'll start something on the list next week.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Wei Meng from ZTE. This draft is for radio extension for IPv4 embedded, multicast and unicast IPv6 prefixes. Next slide, please. And this is the scope and the context of this draft. The requirement came from multicast transition requirements, but not limited to multicast IPv6 address format. Multicast counterpart of DS Lite unicast radius extension defined in IFC 6519. It also adopts the same encoding as IETF softwire multicast prefix option. And this is the working group document. This attribute can be used in various contexts, such as multicast DS Lite, multicast lightweight 4/6, MAP-E, MAP-T, and so on, and include other IPv4 to IPv6 interconnection networking techniques. This is the scenario of the solution. MB4, once MB4 send DHCP-v6 solicit to NAS, NAS will send a radius message access request to 3A server. And then 3A server reply access accept include multicast prefix 64 to NAS. This is the main and very simple process of the radius process. Next slide. How about the deployment? SOFTWIRE multicast transition already tested and deployed in Orange. And there are some real requirements from China Telecom. And there are some updates on version 8, mainly based on draft IETF software multicast prefix option version 8. And thanks review and comments 冲锋蝎浩旺林辉顺七顺 Ian Farrer Tom Taylor Kristen thanks for their review. And next stop we can see the diagram in the slide. There are many primary documents. For example, IFC 6333 and draft IETF software map, IFC 5969, and also the multicast DSLite and mesh multicast. DHCP option, DHCP options are the companion documents of the primary documents, and they are also be adopted as a working group document or IFC. And the radius options are the same with the DHCP options. There is but chapter who softwire multicast radius extension is the only draft that not has been adopted. So next, shall we adopt the document as a working group item? Thank you.
So same question. Who's read this document? Okay, a few people. Thing is, like, this thing requires a recharter. So like we'll have the discussion at the end, and if we decide to recharter, we will consider like one item at a time, right? So at this point we're not able to adopt. So like I don't want to do the call now, but once we finish the recharter, if there is interest, like you say, from the operators, we will certainly consider it.
Okay,
yeah?
Thank you.
Thanks.
My name is stand here? Oh yeah, okay. My name is Bashar Sarikaya. I'm going to talk about multicast support for map and lightweight 4/6. Next slide. Yeah. So these currently, I think the only multicast support draft software has is DSLite. Now, but DSLite has developed many other transition protocols, and most important ones are map and lightweight 4/6. So, but those are unicast, so we need multicast support approaches for map are needed mainly for map E, but also map T and for RD. So to enable IPv4 hosts to have multicast communication over IPv6 network. Now, so in this one, I show pictorially how translation multicast would work with map. So basically, the IPv4 multicast user, that could be IPv6 users, but that we assume IPv6 network supports IPv multicast natively. So IPv4 multicast user has problem. So we need to translate whatever the IPv4 user sends or receives into IPv6 multicast. So the group management messages need to be translated into MLD, and then multicast data to IPv6. Now, on the other side, map BR, border router, does the reverse translation. So, because it's connected to IPv4 network, so it can, it acts like MLD to IGMP translator, and IPv4 network side IGMP or PIM router. And so as a result, when on this side an IPv4 3 is multicast 3 is generated, and then on the IPv6 network an IPv6 3 is generated. So and then they are basically these points, they are combined. So it becomes to the user it is seen as a single tree. Now and then IPv4 multicast source is able to send multicast data to the multicast users in the home network, for example. Okay, I guess that's it. Yeah, there are lots of details. We have it in the draft. So those interested, I think you're welcome to read all details. And if you have any questions, post questions on the list. In lightweight 4/6. It's kind of like DS Lite, but a different version of the DS Lite. So there's lightweight before and lightweight AFTR. So, but the translation mechanism is similar to MLD, and then IPv6 data, multicast data from IPv4 to IPv6, and yeah, it works in a similar way. I guess that's it for the lightweight 4/6. Next slide. So, encapsulation or tunneling-based multicast no longer supported in this version. There were some comments when I presented last time. Basically, the problem with encapsulation or tunneling-based multicast is that some very important applications they create problems because of the tunneling. Some people said, why don't you remove those? And I decided to grant that comment. So we removed, so we obtained only translation multicast. Yeah, that's it. Now, I guess, yeah, discuss what can be done with this draft. I believe it is important, and we need to progress this draft to some better version, maybe standardized. So I will leave it to the chairs what to do.
So thanks, Prasad. So I think it's got I'm going to give you the same answer I gave to Vay before, right? Like, so we don't know like who wants this. Yeah. Okay. So we don't want to do stuff that nobody wants. At this point, like we are nearing the life of the working group, right? So like we are almost ready to close. So we're not going to take up stuff that's not essential. Okay. So let's try to figure out like what's the essential stuff left, and if there is a need for stuff, we will take it up. But
okay,
because it's like there's like effort to spin up a new working group and doing stuff. So if it's like small things that are obvious bugs or something that's obviously missing, so it meets a deployment demand, we're going to go for it. Otherwise, we're just going to close.
Yeah.
Right. So
I understand. Yeah.
Right?
Thank you.
So
I think what encourages me is this map. I think is one of the most important protocols that developed, and a lot of operators already we saw in the mailing list, so are supporting. So eventually they were going to need some multicast in the map network. And Nitrate 4/6 is an improved version of DS Lite. So I'm hopeful that something like this, a multicast approach, is going to be needed.
Okay, thanks, Professor. Thank you.
We need to solicit to the operators that we need, and they should tell us that we need this. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Professor. Can you do the feature slide? Okay, so we come to the point of the meeting. So SOFTWIRE has been quite successful. We managed to get a lot of documents through, and the stateless document set is currently at the RFC editor queue. It's an auth48, so most of them are going to be published in the next few days. The auth48 took longer than 48 hours, as it usually does. It's almost at 3 weeks. But there's been vacations and stuff like that, delay stuff. But I think all the documents are going to get through very quickly. And since that was the biggest work item for SOFTWIREs, the chairs, we had a discussion between the last meeting and this one, and we want to do a graceful shutdown instead of just growing the scope of the group and just keep taking on new things. We want to slowly ramp it down and close pretty quickly. So that's kind of the strategy. So can you show the proposed milestones? We put together some proposed milestones for how we're going to get the things through. It looks pretty aggressive, but it's not, because a lot of the drafts are pretty mature, and they've been held back, unfortunately, because of all the activity on the stateless solutions, right? So we spent most of the working group energy on the stateless solution. So we didn't get much reviews, we didn't get much chair time or AD time on these documents. So they're just they got pretty well reviewed, and I think they should be able to go out of the working group pretty quickly. So if Terry can take 4 documents a month, we can pass them on to him, right? So with this timeline, we are looking at the shutdown around Buenos Aires meeting, right? So if you look at the next slide, so probably around the next 2 meetings, we want to get our documents out and close, okay? And so the big items that I think are potentially controversial that we need to do are the unified CPE and the deployment drafts. And I think those are important things to do and might be controversial, because last time we visited the unified CPE, people were just freaking out, right? Everybody had their own idea how to do things, and this could potentially take longer. And one question I want to put before the group is that, is there somebody who still wants it? I know Ian is going to say yes, right? But we're trying to figure out, is it worth spending that energy to finish it off? Because I know there's a lot of work that's been put onto it, but the question is, do we continue to put energy on it? Because the draft is currently expired, right? So it takes up effort to pull the things up, and maybe find additional editors, because I know there's 2 people who stopped coming, right? So we need to probably find more blood to do it. So I just want to hear your comments on if you think we should be doing other work. Okay.
So Ian Farrer, can I just ask a clarification question first? When the operational documents that you're referring to, are these the same operational documents that have been discussed in V6 Ops? So there's some work that Fred Baker is kicking off there, and is asking for operational experience of deployments around this.
So they are disjoint at this point, but
Sorry?
they're disjoint at this point.
Okay.
But the first question is are we going to do stuff here or not? That would be one question we're going to find out, because Fred and I had and Young, we had a chat offline with the ADs, saying where should this go? Is this an operational document or not? And I don't think we managed to have a conclusion there. But the question is, do we want these documents? That's the first question. We'll figure out the venue later, because if we figure out it's going to be done in V6 Ops, it's still probably going to get last call here in addition, okay, because the expertise for SOFTWIRE is here, right? Mm-hmm. So, but still the question is, do we need these documents? What technologies do we cover? Because that's something we kind of danced around, right? We don't know, because somebody's going to say, I need 4RD deployment, right? Do we do it? Do we not do it, right?
Yeah, it's a fair comment. I mean, Fred did do quite a lot of work on sort of scoping what should be the contents of there, and I think I think there's already a MAP-E one that's been published, although I haven't read it yet. But yeah, they're starting to get some kind of format and some kind of shape around there. So what I was planning on doing is really kind of looking at what exists at the moment, seeing what we've got from our own operational experience, and see if there's anything meaningful that we've got to say about this that isn't already been said. Regarding the unified CPE, so I mean, I don't know whether the unified CPE is still the right moniker for it. Recently, we've done a fair amount of work around taking the OpenWRT implementation of this and testing it in our environment. And we have situations where we're running DS Lite. We have situations where we're running Lightweight 4/6. We need to swap between those modes within the life cycle. It doesn't work. And so, I mean, that's just one case that we have in there. But I mean, it's become more and more apparent as we've tried different sort of provisioning and reprovisioning of these things that this is undefined behavior. There is no way that it's meant to work. And I mean, I think there is a prioritization rule that was put in to that particular implementation just to say stateless transition better than stateful transition. And so that's the behavior that it has, which is okay. But what it doesn't seem to be able to do is change. It makes up its mind, and it's a reboot, so all right. So this is stuff that I think, now that we're actually getting to the stage where we've got deployments out there, the bits that haven't been quite, or the loose ends that haven't been tied up, are starting to matter. And unified CPE is certainly one of those. There's another draft which I've got in there, which is not listed on here, which is about multiple tunnel endpoints, which is more driven about differences between how implementers have chosen to build the AFTR. And again, I mean, looking back at the lightweight spec, it's not something that we explicitly covered in there.
So the stuff that's here, it's either like current working group documents or stuff that's in the charter that we can include, right? Like, so if it's something you think that...
But these are just submitted drafts, most of them, aren't they? Some of them are working group items, some of them aren't.
But some of them are like kind of in the scope of the working group before we even reach charter, right? So like...
you mean in the charter as it exists at the moment?
Right, the charter is like a bit fluffy, right? Like, so
it's very fluffy, but
right,
I mean,
like,
having just had a look through there, I mean, there's not a lot of things that I sort of recognize as being current things that we're working on at the moment.
Right, like, so, can you show the document, Young? So, the Word document with the milestones and the new charter. The Word document. The Word document with all the charter and milestones. Yeah, this one. So sorry for the people who are remote, like this is just something we are showing here, but we haven't put it in the proceedings. But the idea is like we will like submit like a new charter stuff after we talk to our AD on the list, right? Mm-hmm. Along with proposed milestones to like to the working group for discussion. So there's like something like the chairs have been sitting together and doing like to kind of clean it up a bit, and you will get a chance to comment, Ian, for sure on that, right? Fine. So. But the point is like this is like just a proposal. So if you think there's stuff that's missing, like you're free to speak up at that point.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, my overriding point is that now that we're actually moving to the deployment phase, there's tidying up that needs to be done in a few areas just to make sure that we've got complete working solutions, and that's what I'd like to see.
Okay, but I think it's very good. Like if you can actually spend effort on the unified CPE to update it, right? Like, and you're welcome to do that. I think it's very good if you do that. Yeah. Thanks.
And I think I got to let us know that there's a comment from the Jabber room. The Adelan said he said yes, and he think we should finish the unified SOFTWIRE CPE document.
Thanks, Leonard.
Wayman from ZTE. I didn't see the radius for multicast in the proposed milestone. So the question is, as I just presented. What does the working group think about the multicast radios? Yeah.
Right. So if you look at this, right, we are asking for new stuff. So you would obviously say something, and Bezet will say something. When we propose this new charter, right, you're going to come back and say, hey, I want this thing added, and then we discuss it on the list and see if it needs to get added, right? That's the plan. So we are proposing some stuff based on what we see already, but this is a presentation from you today. So when we send out this charter proposal, you're free to comment at the time and say, like, this is something we need. This is like China Telecom is planning to deploy it. and Sun Chang may come back and say, yes, like we want to do it, right? And then we proceed to see if you want to add it or not based on consensus.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah.
The process? Okay, thanks. Terry?
Terry, wearing the AD hat. It concerns me that there are a large number of items there that need to get through, and I'm worried about the amount of people in the working group who are going to be able to contribute to that. It's nice to say, hey, I like this widget X, but unless there's a body of people that are keen on working on widget X, it makes it difficult to call consensus. Yeah? So please keep that in mind.
So just to answer that, there's probably going to be 4 documents that are new. Most of the other documents are documents that we held back as on the instruction from the AD to hold other things back other than the software solutions. So some of these things are just like stuff that has been reviewed last called already, and like we also went to the MIB doctors for early review. So like all these things have been widely reviewed, right? So it's the working group's job is done. We as a chairs are holding the documents.
Push them.
Yeah, so we can.
I'll take them. That's
okay.
fine.
So those are
the other items that I'm thinking about.
So if you go back, let's. Right. So out of here, so the Yang model, the deployment models, and the unified CP are the stuff that require significant review, and those are the things we're questioning whether we need them or not. Right. Like that's what we're going to question. So other than that, like it's all stuff that's mostly been done already.
I would then urge you to make that specific call on the mailing list asking, is there a body of people who are willing to spend time on those items?
Okay.
And I think that will give you a strong indication as whether to either continue or call those documents as dead and close the working group.
Perfect. Thank you.
My comments is about
Your name?
My name is Chongfeng Xie from China Telecom. My comments about the radius extension for IPv4 multicast, the draft proposed by Meng Wei. Yeah. And I hope that can be added to the items of the milestones, because it has been discussed many times, and it also one of the real requirements from China Telecom. So we hope that can be one item of the work of the milestones.
I think it's good to know. Like, so when we ask for the comments on this, like, feel free to make the comment, right? Like, and so I think one thing we need to know is like we need to have people who can review the document, because like we don't want to take up a document where we get like one review during working group last call or none, right? Mm-hmm. So we need to be able to do that, and we probably need to get somebody with multicast knowledge to take a look at it and comment on it, right? Like, so there's like set of stuff to do. Like we can just pick up the document, but if we don't have the energy in the working group to finish it, we don't want to take it. It's just the chair's call, right? So we had like a long, tough ride in this working group. Like we spent a lot of energy in getting the stateless documents out. Okay. So if we may not have the energy to finish all the documents, we don't want to take them up. That's our thinking. Okay. But make the comment, like when we send out the charter for review and the milestones, say like, I want this to be added and this is why I need it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, so that's pretty much it on our side. So unless somebody remote has something to say, Ida, like if you have something more to add. Okay, guess not. Okay. So what do you say? So we just finish the meeting, I think, right? So that's it. So thanks a lot, folks. So we'll send out the charter for review like within the next couple of weeks. And Terry, you're going to get a bunch of documents in the next 2 weeks as well. And we really apologize for the people who got their documents waiting because of the stateless documents. It's unfortunate, but thanks a lot for your patience. Thanks a lot, and have a nice evening. Or if you have another meeting, have a nice meeting.
Exactly. There is no gate in
Right.
That was the way that
Yeah.
Thanks very much.